So this is the second impromptu Roblox tutorial I'm going to make. Um, yeah, let's get into it. So in this one, I'm going to tell you how to script. So I'm just gonna create a script. I'm just gonna put it in the workspace. What? Okay. So first off, the print function. You want to have the output open to know this. Printing stuff is good for like values. You can print numbers. Oh yeah, hang on. Before I do that, actually, first I'm going to tell you what numbers, so like the data types of Roblox. So if you've ever done programming before, there are data types. If you haven't, just follow along, I guess. So to initialize or create a variable, which is a way to store information, you say local, or you just type out the name you want. I'm gonna call it like let's call it right. So this is called a global variable. It is, well, global, and you actually don't want to use these. You want to use local ones instead because they're just better, and they take up, like, they use another way of storage. They use another storage method, so they're quicker or something. I don't know. Anyways, so to this, we've already created a variable. Now, this variable doesn't have any value. The value right now is actually called nil, which is a keyword. You should not name any of your variables nil because it is not. It's not like there are certain things that are keywords. For example, like I can't name my variable table. Wait, no, can I? Wait, um, I can't name it things like game dot workspace or something. But um, yeah, script is a keyword, I think, or is it? I'm not even. I'm not actually. I'm confused now. But there are keywords that are not usable as variables. And variables can only contain letters, numbers, and there might be some other things that they can contain, but I'm not sure what they are. Oh, they can have underscores. They also cannot start with a number. So you see how this is yellow now because it thinks this is a number, but it's not. Anyways, back to data types. So there are numbers, or in another programming language, it would actually be called doubles. So there's numbers, right? You can have, you don't, there's no, I think you can have integers, but that's like with something else. Um, that's with something called int values. So there's values here, but if you have integers, it's better for storage, so you should probably use integers. But there's also doubles, fractions and stuff. So I'm just gonna put this as that. There's strings, which is text, and you use these, what are they called? Quotation marks. There's characters, which with which. Okay, hang on. There was a lot of distracting noise. Which you use these like one quote thingies for. What else? There's tables, which can store other variables. They're not called lists, unlike in other programming languages. Lists. They're called tables. So you initialize them with square brackets, and they can store other values in them, including other tables. You put a comma between values of a table. What other data types? There's instances. I should have told you this before. So everything you see in here is an instance. So like camera, terrain, all these are all instances. So they're basically just objects is another word for them, and they are things that are more quote unquote physical. So yeah, instances. Um, let's see. With with strings, you can put two strings together. Hang on. With these double dots. So e dot dot, like let's say hello dot dot world. This would print out hello world with no space. If I printed it, which prints is a function that it just prints stuff, and it prints to this output. You can also see what's printing things. You can usually see what's printing stuff by clicking on this, and it'll take you to the line inside the script that's printing it. I'm pretty sure you can also press, I think it was F10. No, not F10. You press F9 to see what is going on, and you can actually see the printing and errors that are going on uh, in other people's games, even if you just press F9. There are errors as well. For example, you cannot add two strings with a plus symbol. Unlike things like Python, you just can't do that. I would actually recommend using string dot. I think it was join. Wait. Oh, they don't have this, or do they? Uh, there are libraries. They're called libraries of functions. So tables have their own, strings have their own, and then for numbers you can do math. Uh, anyways, with numbers to add things together, it's it is it's just this plus symbol. To multiply, it is an asterisk. And then if you want to do power or explanation, it is that up thingy. 10 to the 10th is 10 billion. To subtract, it's just, you know how to subtract. Um, to divide it is to divide, it is a dash. And then there are also other functions. For example, but you would need to use the math library for this. So math, and then press dot, and you can do like logarithm. You can do power with this, or just put a caret. Max, which returns the largest of the two numbers you put in. Actually, no, the largest of all the numbers you put in. You can put in multiple. Mod. What the heck? Okay, I've never seen that before. Oh wait, there is actually modulo, which is finding the remainder of one thing divided by another. So this should return 1. Yes, it does. Let's see. Um, there's also, if you want, there's normal math syntax. For example, you can do a parentheses 1 plus 1 and then times 5. Uh, if you did if you did 1 plus, if you just did 1 plus 1 times 5, it would do the 1 times 5 first because pen does. But because it is like this, it'll print out 1 plus 1 and then times 5, which would be 10. Like so. You want to be careful with parentheses because it gets messy sometimes. There's another value that I have not talked about yet, which are Boolean values. It only stores true or false. So false, right? True. These are keywords. You don't want to use them for your variable names. So what these can be used for is in if statement. So if statements are just it checks, it's like if true, right? If true, then it, for example, if I have some code here, two dashes to make comments, by the way. Anything in the comments doesn't do anything. If I have like code here, then I have more code here. If whatever's in this is satisfied, it will run. So if false would never run, if true will always run. And then if you want to do another conditional statement is done with equals equals larger. It actually can do a lot of things. I mean, no, there's a lot of things that can be called conditional statements, but they always give a true or false value. So like 1 equals 1, right? Um, this will always be true. If you want to have, you could have like a variable, right? Um, Also when you're typing out stuff, it'll sometimes like put in it'll sometimes put in things like these inside of it. You can just press tab to just type out the whole thing. It's pretty useful and nice. Um, so this will never return true. And I can say variable equals math dot random 1 comma 10, right? This will return a random number. Not well, yeah, it'll give a random number. But the thing is, because this variable value is already set, this returns something. So if it returns 5, the variable's value will always be 5 until I change the variable's value again. So there's only a 1 in 10 chance that this will permanently be, always working. Or and a 1 in and a 1 in 9 chance that will always not work. And then, so those are if statements, and there's else statements, right? So in an if statement, if the condition is not true, it'll go to the else. You can also put parentheses around um, these like conditional statements, and this will just, like, let's say variable equals 1, right? This will just equal true inside of this parentheses. It's similar to and it's similar to how math works with the parentheses coming first. If you want to do multiple functions, multiple conditions at once, let's say 0 equals 0 and 1 equals, oh, larger is larger. Okay, so with arithmetic or numbers, there are a couple of conditional statements. There's larger than, larger than or equal to, less than or uh, equal to. This, okay, equals is actually, it can be used with a lot of things. And then it's just checking if two things are equal, and it's not always with arithmetic. Like, I can do it with strings too. There is this. I'm pretty sure this is how you type it. No, it's not. It is like this then. Yeah, wait. Oh, okay. Instead, I'm gonna do something else. So the not keyword is just like if it's not equals, right? If it's not, like, if this is true, then it'll turn into false. And with not statements, you want to have a parentheses around it. Wait, no. Like that. So you want to have a parentheses around whatever this is. I don't know why, but just Roblox likes that kind of syntax. Besides, and there's also or, checks if one of the conditions are true. Um, hmm. I think that's all for that. There's also else ifs, which is like else if something else, right? And then you can put another else at the end. Uh, hmm. Oh, loops. I'm just gonna cram it into this as well. So there are while loops and for loops. While loops simply run until some sort of condition is met. If you say while true, it will create an infinite loop. If you do this, it will actually crash. See, if Roblox has this safeguard, if it takes too long to execute a script, it'll just cancel. So if you want to do a loop that runs forever, you can do while, right? While true do, and then task dot wait. There's also the wait function, but it's been replaced by task dot wait. So task dot wait, and then you put a parentheses at the end because this is a function, and then put like 0.1. A function is basically just a set of code that runs without needing to copy and paste the whole code. So 0.1, this would run every 0.1 seconds, right? And as we can see, the game runs fine. Uh, Instead of saying while true, you can also say while task.wait 0.1. This will do the same thing as if you put true and then task.wait here. You can also do like and true and whatever other conditions you want to put here. All right. Um, so those are while loops. In loops, you can also break. To what break does is it breaks. It exits the loop. Even if it's in the middle of some code. Let's say there's code here and code here. It'll just exit the loop. And then there are for loops. So for loops, uh, they they do something called iterating over something, which if you have done programming before, you probably know what that means. If you haven't, you probably don't, I would assume. Iterating just means going through or over. So like for I, right? I would be a variable name here. I can name it anything. I'm gonna call it YouTube. No, I'm gonna call it subscribe. Right? Equals 1 comma 10. I'm pretty sure I have 266 subscribers as of making of this video. So I'll do that, right? 1 equals what? Subscribe equals 1 comma 266. So this would go from all numbers through all numbers from 1 to 266. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all those. Do, you put a do at the end of these. And this would just, like, if I wanted to print all these numbers, right? So this repeats whatever's in here, however many times this goes through. So if you go and look here, you can see every single number has been printed from 1 to 266. And yeah, that is that. There's also, you can count by more than one. So like count by one would be, 1 to 266. You can do count by like twos, which as you can see, it's counting by twos. And then okay, so this is how you can do like just a set loop. You don't have to do this. You could also put like a variable here. Whatever the variable is, it'll have that amount of count. So like 5 count by 5 at a time, as you can see. And then okay, so this is useful in another way, which is that you can iterate over things in an instance value. So like workspace, right? For I, comma v. So I, comma v is used to go through a table, right? Let's say I have a table. All right, so you might be wondering why it's I, comma v. You don't have to put I, comma v, but you might be wondering why it's two values, right? The reason is because there's an index and there's a value. So these are the values, right? Now the index you don't see. I'm gonna make this less confusing by putting a 5 there so that it's not weird. All right. I'm gonna press enter a couple times. This is a valid way to make a table, by the way, in case you're wondering. So what this is doing is it's just spreading it out, but the indexes right now are actually 1 equals that. So the index at like index 1 or something with an ID of 1, it's basically an identification system. So 3, 4, 5 equals that, equals that. You do still have to put commas after these. You can see there's like a little red mark here if you don't. Alright, so this is actually what the table looks like if I type the whole thing out. It's equal to the table it was at before I stretched it out like this. Now, you can also do strings as indexes. So if I do that, right, you can have duplicate values, or you cannot have duplicate indexes. As you can see, that thing's, erroring. If you want to get a value from a table by index, you use these little square brackets, and then you say like 1, that would get 5, 2, that would get 2, 3, that would get 310, 4, that would get 4, 5, that would get 5, and then string, that would get 5. That would return 5. Now, So that's how you do stuff in a table. I said you can iterate through the children of an instance, for example, workspace. So game.workspace. This thing is it basically every single thing has a set of functions. Almost everything, pretty much every instance at least, has a set of functions, and then get children. So this is just getting well the children, a table or list, but I call them they're called tables in here of all the children's. Of all the children's, no, just all the children. T would be the ID value of the children, I guess. Oh, if you want to do in a table, you have to put in. So V would just be every child. See, camera, base plate, terrain, spawn location, and then I've been put in after the script ran, so it did not put me into here. Um, let's see, I, no, not I, T. That is just the ID of the thing. It'll just give you numbers. This is useful if you want to like say delete everything. V will always be an instance because the children have to be instances. Destroy is just how you destroy an instance. I can't destroy terrain. Well, too bad. But it destroyed everything else, right? As you oh, it did not destroy everything else. But it did destroy the base plate. So yeah, if you want to filter things, you can say like v.name, which is a property. It's one of the properties, and it's just the name. If v.name equals. All right, there was just yet another interruption. I hope you didn't hear it. I also needed to restart the thing I'm using to record because like it's just really bad and it crashes after maybe 20 minutes. So, anyways, if v.name equals array, then you don't have to type out then. If you just press enter here, it'll put the then and the end. Equals terrain, then nothing, right? You don't have to put anything in there. And then else v dot destroy v colon destroy. So now everything's destroyed except for the camera. Um, I'm not sure if or I wonder why that's not destroyed. Maybe oh, I see. It's because it was added as the players added. Okay, so that's why it's not destroyed. Anyways, everything else is destroyed. If I put a bunch of parts in here, all right. Look at all these parts, right? They're gone too. Um, to refer to something in the workspace, you want to do like or not even in the workspace to refer to something in instance, right? Especially if you want to set it as a like a hard coded value. So what I mean by hard coded is hard coded would be like works game dot workspace dot camera, right? But a non hard coded value would be something like a variable name that like a variable that contains an instance and then find first child, which is what find first child does is it just finds the first child who's of something, for example, workspace, whose name is blah blah blah. Right? You get my point. Um. Oh, also, if you want to get the child of something, but you put a space in the name. For example, let's call this part right. If I try to get right, it puts it as this. But if I wanted to do dot, usually you do dots uh, in order to like get something's child. You see, like it bugs out, right? But now if I just put some of these square brackets, on. It'll it's perfectly fine. The reason why there's red lines right now though is because there's no function call and it was expecting a function call. So destroy. And there you have it. The part's gone. I think that will be it for this video. Goodbye.